easiest way to use Publisher is to actually design a publication and then learn to add features to that publication as you go along. To start off with, we're going to create a blank 8.5 by 11 publication as shown here. We're going to turn this publication into a flyer as the course progresses. If you start with a blank publication and want to create your own, learning to do things such as setting up your page will be very important. The Page Settings dialog box allows you to get started designing your own publication and setting options for it. To set up your page options, click on the Page Design tab, and then go over here to the Page Setup group. As you can see, here you can set your margins, orientation, and the size. Let's discuss what each of these mean. First, the margins. Margins means the amount of white space that is along the top, bottom, left, and right edges of your publication. Margins are measured in inches. Orientation refers to either portrait or landscape. Portrait means the longer edge of the publication makes up the height, or it runs vertical. And landscape means the longer edge goes horizontally across. So if you look, portrait, more tall, landscape, more wide. Go ahead and click the arrow at the bottom right of the Page Setup group, and the Page Setup dialog box opens. So let's learn how to set the options for your page. Under the Page section, you're going to enter the width and the height of the paper you want to print on. Under the Margin Guide section, you'll enter the amount of white space that goes around the edges of your pages. You'll enter margins for the top, left, bottom, and right. And remember, once again, that this is measured in inches. So right now we've got everything set to 0.5 inches. Next, under the Layout Type section, select the layout type. 1 page per sheet means that 1 page of your publication will be printed on 1 sheet of paper. You can use Print Preview to see how it fits on the page. Booklet means your publication will be in a booklet design. And you'll notice that the margin guide labels will change. Left will be outside and right will be inside. This lets you know where they'll appear in your booklet. Email will enable you to create a design for email. Envelope will set you up to create a standard envelope of 9.5 inches by 4.125 inches. If you want to change the measurements, you'll have to change the width and height in the page section of the window. Folded card is what you'll use to create greeting cards. You'll print that sheet and then fold it to make the card. When you choose this layout, sheet fold options are displayed. You can decide how you'll fold your publication. On the right side of the window, Publisher will show you how your publication will be folded. And Web Page will allow you to design a web page. Lastly, if you choose multiple pages per sheet, you'll print more than 1 page of your publication on a sheet of paper. When you choose this, target paper size options are displayed. Horizontal gap refers to the space between each column of a page. Vertical gap refers to the space between rows. The preview window to the right shows you how it will look. Go ahead and click OK when you finish setting your options. Now when you're working with a blank publication and designing it yourself, you can use layout guides and rulers to organize and align your text and pictures as well as other items into columns and rows. These tools make it a lot easier to design professional-looking publications because it makes lining things up a snap. Without the guides and rulers, it would be hard to create an organized publication. So here's our rulers here, and our guides. The layout guides in Publisher 2013 include 4 layout guides: margin, column, row, and baseline. When you use these, they make up a grid. To structure a page using layout guides, first open your blank publication. Click on the Page Design tab, and then click Margins. Select Custom Margins. Under the Master Pages category, make sure the 2-page master box is checked. Under Margin Guides, specify the amount of space you want for the inside, outside, top, and bottom margins. Remember, the space you specify for margins will be the amount of white space around your publication. You can see the current margins in the preview. This outside blue box is what represents the margins. Now click on the Grid Guides tab. Under the Column Guides section, specify the number of columns in the columns box, and then specify the amount of space you want between the columns. If you only have 1 column set, that option will be grayed out, since if you only have 1 column, there's no need to set spacing. So if we wanted to add 2 columns, now we can add that spacing, and you'll see our publication is now set to 2 columns. Now under the Row Guides, do the same thing you did for the columns, except that this will be for rows. Clicking on the Add Center Guide between columns and rows box will add an additional guide in the center of the space between your columns and rows. Now click the tab to set the baseline guides. Baseline guides help align the text that is not linked between several text boxes and columns. We'll learn about text boxes later on in this course. Specify the amount of space that you want between the baselines, and then click OK when you're finished. You can also add guides by going to the Layout group under the Page Design tab and clicking on the Guides drop-down menu. These are the predefined ruler guides that Publisher gives you to use. You can select any of these or use the ruler to create your own. By default, the ruler extends horizontally above your publication and vertically along the left side of your publication. You can see the rulers here. Whenever you move your mouse over the work area, you'll see a black line appear on the rulers that tells you the location of your mouse. You can use this little black line to add guides. This is helpful if you want to align objects to the center of your publication or at certain spots in your publication. So to show you what we mean, take a look right here. The black line appears at 4.5 inches over our publication. Click on the black line, then go to the Guides drop-down menu and select Add Vertical Ruler Guide. Now you can see that our vertical guide has been added, and if you wanted to add a horizontal guide, you would do the same thing using the ruler here. Now let's talk about aligning objects. When you align objects in your publication, you can align them either to the grid or to other objects. To set what you want your objects to align to, go to the Page Design tab and then to the Layout group. Right now we have it so our objects align to the guides or the grid and other objects. Let's show you how that works. Here I've inserted a picture of a sheep. To place the image where we want it, we drag and drop. We can align it to the guides, however, we could also align it to other objects. When you align an object to a guide, the light blue guide gets darker when the object is aligned, as you can see here. So once our object is aligned, we can release the mouse button. Now our picture has been aligned with our guides. Now, as you see here, I've inserted another picture of a sheep, and I'd like to align it with the first one. When we drag our picture, we see this dotted pink line appear. That tells us when our new image is aligned with the first image. Again, you can release the mouse when the picture is aligned. Now let's talk about creating and using a page background. You can easily change the background of your page from the plain white that you see right now. To add or change the page background, click on the Page Design tab. Now click on Background in the Page Background group on the far right. Click the Background drop-down menu toward the right side of the ribbon. It'll give you the option to select the background that you want, or click on More Backgrounds. Let's talk about the different types of backgrounds you can create. There's no fill, solid fill, gradient fill, picture or texture fill, and pattern fill. Fills are colors, patterns, and images that you add to the background. You can use a solid color fill such as purple, blue, green, and so forth. And you can also use a gradient fill, pattern fill, or a picture. In a gradient fill, the color is gradually shaded, usually from top to bottom. So this is an example of what a gradient fill looks like. As you can see, the bottom of the gradient is darker than the top. This is called a gradient. In the Fill section of the Format Background page, you can also select your fill. You can select Solid Fill, Gradient Fill, Picture or Texture Fill, Pattern Fill, or you can select No Fill to hide background graphics. When you select a type of fill, you'll see the options for that fill. Below are the options for a gradient fill. You can play with these options to get the look that you want. You can also choose a pattern as a fill. To assign a pattern, select Pattern Fill from the Format Background pane. Choose the pattern that you want to use. You can play with this just as you did with the gradients. Now if you want to apply a picture or texture to the background, click Picture or Texture Fill. If you want to insert a picture, you can choose if you want to insert it from a file on your computer, from the clipboard, or from an online image. Some images you might use are too dark for a publication because you can't easily add text over them and have the text be seen. For that reason, you can increase the transparency of an image you use as a background so it's lighter and more transparent on the page. And we'll be talking more about inserting images later in this course. If you want to insert a texture, click the Texture drop-down box. This gives you all the different textures that you can apply. And you can set your transparency for that as well. Once you've finished, click the OK button. Now let's talk about setting the page size. When you create a blank publication, you can either choose to create an 8.5 by 11 publication or an 11 by 8.5 publication. If you want to change the size, you do so using the ribbon once you've created the blank publication. To change the page size, you'll go again to your Page Design tab, and here in the Page Setup group, click on the drop-down arrow beside Page Size. This gives you all your different options. You can choose a size from the menu, or create a new page size if the size you want isn't listed. As you can see, you can set the page size, margins, and the layout type just as we did during the page setup earlier in this lesson. Fill out the information in the dialog box and then click OK. If you want to choose from preset pages designed by publisher, click on More Preset Page Sizes in the drop-down menu. Select a publication type or manufacturer. For example, if you want to print on a 3M Post-it note, you'll want to create the publication to match the size specified by the manufacturer. We're going to choose postcards for the publication type. Now you can select a size or manufacturer. We're going to choose Office Depot under manufacturers. And then finally, we can choose a size. Click OK when you've finished. Now let's talk about creating and using master pages. The ability to create and apply master pages is one of the best features of Publisher. If you've never used them before, and most people haven't, you're in for a treat. Master pages can save you tons of time and hard work and help you keep your publications consistent. And consistency is very important if you want to create professional publications. Master pages work sort of like overlays that contain design elements you may want to apply to several or even all of the pages in your publication. For instance, if you were creating a photo album, you might want to create a master page that has placeholders for images. You can use the master page for all pages in the publication or create different masters. This way, you don't have to recreate layouts each time. Without master pages, you would have to manually enter all of these elements onto every page, which is a very time-consuming and labor-intensive process. Even worse, you'd have to reformat each element and position it precisely. I think we can all agree that you don't want to have to do that. So with master pages, you can insert the element only once and choose which pages you want that element to appear on. Some common elements used in master pages include page numbers and headers and footers, but you can also add text boxes, artwork, and custom watermarks. By default, Publisher 2013 automatically includes one master page every time you create a new publication, but you can easily add more. To view and edit your master pages, click on the View tab. On the far left, you'll see the Views group shown here, and you'll click on the Master Page button. When you do this, your view will change. Here you can see that the Master Page tab has been added to the ribbon. Instead of the pages of your publication, you'll only see your master pages in the page navigation pane. You can add elements to a master page just like any ordinary page, except that everything you put on a master page will appear on every publication page it's applied to. To show you how this works, we're going to add a master page, edit it, and then apply it to our publication. There are two ways to add a new master page. The first and the most obvious is to click on the Add Master Page button, which you can see right there in the upper left corner. And then the New Master Page dialog box will open. Publisher automatically assigns the new master page an ID. This is basically a numbering system, except instead of calling them page 1, page 2, page 3, and so forth, we call them page A, page B, and page C, and so forth. You can change this ID if you want, but it's not really a big deal. In the description box, you can enter a short description. This can be an easy way to remember what's on a page if you have a lot of them. For instance, you might enter title page, chapter headings, artwork, and so forth. If you'd like a 2-page spread, make sure you check the 2-page master box, and then click OK when you're finished. Another way to create a new master page is to right-click anywhere in the page navigation box, and then click Add Master Page. That same dialog box will open. Sometimes you might want to create a master page based on an existing master page. This is convenient if you already have many elements on a page and you want to add a few more objects, but not apply them to all the pages in your publication. To do this, right-click on any master page in the page navigation pane, and then select Insert Duplicate Page. Additionally, you could click on any page and then click on Duplicate in the Master Page tab. Now let's apply a master page. To do this, you simply go to the Master Page tab, select a master page, and click the Apply To button. You'll see a small menu here, and you have the option to choose to apply the page to all pages in your publication, to the current page that's selected, or to a range of pages. Let's click Apply Master Page. When you do this, this window opens and it asks us to choose a page or a range of pages. Make your selection and then click OK. When you're finished creating, editing, or applying your master pages, click the Close Master Page button in the ribbon to return to the page view. You can also use master pages to apply backgrounds. To do this, go to the Page Design tab, click on the Master Pages drop-down menu, and then select the master page that you want to use for the background.